Ready. Let's go ahead and begin. My name is Sharon Burgee. I'm the Department of Defense Grant Program Director for this. Work at the Cybersecurity Center for Business at UW-Whitewater. This program was developed with Marinette Marine and Oshkosh Corporation in cooperation and coordination with the Department of Defense. If you've ever worked with the Department of Defense, they love their acronyms, and this one is called WIS Secured, and it stands for Wisconsin's Execution of Cybersecurity Understanding, Remediation, and Education for Defense. Just to give you a little outline of today, I'll have our partners from Marinette Marine and Oshkosh Corporation join us and welcome you. I will then also cover a little bit more about what our grant project is all about and the expectations from Department of Defense, as well as their support. We'll then have our director from the Cybersecurity Center, Brian, talk to you a little bit more about the CMMC and why we're here. Then most of our day and most of the time today will be spent with Kevin from Tetra Defense, who has developed an online progressive self-assessment tool for you to utilize for free to try to track your progress, or that will track your progress for CMMC levels 1 and level 2. And then we'll also open it up for Q&A at the end. Just a few housekeeping items I'd like to go over. If you've never used WebEx before, in your bottom right corner, you'll either see 3 little dots or a little panel that is question and answers, poll questions, that kind of thing. If you open up the Q&A area, if you want to ask questions, where you can type in your question. Some computers have a send button, others you just hit the return and the questions will come in. It's important to know too, at the end, we'll answer these questions. I'll answer throughout the presentation as well, as much as I can. And then we're collecting all of these and we're putting them together so that we send them back out to you, as well as post them on our Cybersecurity Center for Business website. Another cool function of WebEx is kind of in your right center upper screen, you'll see a layout box. If you click on that, it gives you an opportunity to look at the screen in a variety of different ways. With that, I'd like to introduce one of our first partners, Think Kentiri Marinette Marine. Charles, are you on today, or someone else that is there to represent Marinette today?
Yes, Corey's here to represent Marinette this morning again.
Thanks, Corey.
Yeah, of course. So I'm one of the data security analysts that work with Think and Terry, and have been working alongside with Whitewater and Oshkosh and helping to develop and assist in any way we can with the upcoming CMMC project. If there's any technical aspects in regards to CMMC or anything along those lines, then we'd be more than happy to help any of the vendors and suppliers out there. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Corey. And next, Corey. Corey Fisher is on today from Oshkosh Defense. Otherwise, is someone else on that can represent Oshkosh Defense today, our other partner?
Hi, Sharon. This is Paul Jankowski.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, definitely. I've been part of this team that's helped work together with Tetra Defense, Sharon, as well as Marinette Marine to put this program together. You know, long story short, we all know that cybersecurity is in the media constantly. We've had the pipeline attack that affected the entire East Coast. It happens, it's a real thing, and it can have detrimental consequences. The reason for doing this is to develop a better partnership. It really is to develop a better partnership with our suppliers, and our willingness to help you out, to help you grow, and all of us grow together to become to have a stronger cybersecurity presence, because it's not just going to be a one-time thing. It really needs to be a posture and how we stand together that will make this a success. And with that, I thank all of you for joining.
Thanks so much, Paul. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Paul. This is critical. I can't thank you guys enough for joining us as well, for taking time out of your day to learn more about this program and how we can hopefully help you to get prepared for the CMMC and what these audits are all about, what all of it is all about, and what Department of Defense is trying to do. And so with that, cybersecurity maturity model certification was supposed to go into full force June 1 of 2020. There has been starts and stops and delays and different things that go on. People laugh at me because I always refer to it as the military flying the plane while they're building it, which is very much often the case with any federal agency. But this will apply to some of the contracts in 2021, and they're saying all of the contracts by either 2025 or early 2026. So the intent, though, is that they want to have one unified cybersecurity maturity model. They want one program that takes the best practices and puts them all in one place for the entire supply chain. So everyone is working under the same requirements, the same rules, and when they approach someone to talk to them about where they're at as a defense industry supplier, they know that you are following the same rules as everyone else. So it's important to understand that this will impact you regardless of where you are in the supply chain, whether you're a prime contractor, a subcontractor, or a supplier of a piece or a part. And then also important to know, unlike DFARS and some of the other requirements, there is no self-certification in the CMMC. It's important to know also that it does not replace these other directives. It builds off of 800-171 and DFARS. It just takes, again, those best practices and policies and is trying to put all of them together in one place so that the Department of Defense is able to measure the capabilities and readiness of their defense industry base. All contractors will start at level 1. You'll have to qualify and be audited at each of the levels. Level 1 is 17 requirements, so pretty basic, pretty simple hygienes. They're thinking that most companies will be somewhere between level 1 and level 3. Level 2 is just kind of a sounding board, I would say, or a stepping stone to level 3. But again, you'll have to qualify in each of those levels. It will be based off of whatever the contract states that you'll have to, the level you'll have to be at. And a lot of it is important to remember that it's common sense. So like having antivirus software, having individual logins for each of your employees, and making sure that you keep your software up to date. As if you've read much about these latest hacks, you'll hear and understand that many of these are in fact breaches that could have been stopped had they just updated their own software. So things that are available to you already that people need to make sure they're doing. Again, this project itself, it's been 2 years in the making. We worked closely with Department of Defense, who actually asked us to write this specifically for Oshkosh Defense and Marinette Marine to make sure that the supply chain is ready for the CMMC. And this is a way for the Department of Defense to try to help give back and get you prepared. We're starting out with these town halls like this to introduce you to the grant, tell you more about the CMMC levels 1 and 2, and to make sure you understand and know our partners, because we could not do this without Oshkosh and Marinette Marine. And then we brought in Tetra Defense about 9 months ago to develop this learning management system, the online progressive self-assessment tool called SITE. After this town hall, we'll invite you to the SITE tool. You'll get an email from me, so please watch for that. You've probably gotten some from me already, burgies@uww.edu. So please watch for those, and if you don't see them by the end of the day today, please check your junk or trash mail. I'd appreciate that. And then after this, after you get into the online self-assessment tool, we want to set up readiness workshops. Those will be trainings that are customized based around what we're seeing you need or input that you provide to us. So please feel free to reach out. We are here to help you and guide you through this. And our intent is to try to get you through this with low or no cost. And all of what we're doing is at no cost. The objectives for this, for the Department of Defense, is that we get out the information and requirements of level 1 and 2 of the CMMC. We want to make sure that we're improving your ability to protect your own business. We want to make sure that you know where you're at and what you need to do to get prepared for any audits. And we want to make sure in doing this that you are able to remain a part of the defense industry base, because they're saying by 2026, or once a contract is written that you are a part of, if it says CMMC level 1 is required, you will have to be at CMMC level 1 and audited at that level. So we want to keep you a part of the defense industry base. So those are some of the intents and objectives of this grant. With that, I'm going to introduce you to Brian Dennis. Brian's our director of the Cybersecurity Center for Business here at UW-Whitewater. And Brian's going to tell you just a little bit more about why we're here and the CMMC and the hacks and such that we're seeing today. So Brian, take it away, please.
All right. Thank you, Sharon, and thank you, everybody, for being on today. So before we get started, I always like to try to get an idea of, where people are with their thinking towards CMMC. And an easiest way to do that is to start with just a simple poll. And so I'm going to actually open up a poll here really quick. Let's see. Taking over from you, Sharon. All right. So just have 3 really easy questions. We're just kind of taking a look at where the most of the folks on the call today are when it comes to their thoughts towards CMMC as it exists right now, and what they think their level of readiness is. So you're going to see the poll questions popping up there on the right-hand side of your screen. First question is, does your company have an information security officer or IT security office? Second is, do you currently work with restricted sensitive data, ITAR, CUI, et cetera, for Oshkosh and or Fincantieri Marinette Marine? And then third, what level of the CMMC do you believe your organization will need to be at? And these are just questions that we're just trying to begin taking a dive into to better understand where a lot of the folks that we're working with are. So we've just got about 25 more seconds on that. And while you guys are answering this question, it got mentioned earlier about the Colonial pipeline hack. I just read an article about it where they're now it looks like Colonial went ahead and paid the $5 million ransom the first day of the attack, which just blows my mind. And it's still taking them this long to get back up and running. And it was because the response from the attackers just wasn't quick enough. And so it's, these things are going to continue happening. And so it's an interesting time to be working in cybersecurity these days. And so it looks like our poll is done. Thank you, everybody, for participating. So let's take a look at our responses here. Does your company have an information security officer or IT security office? 34% of the folks on the call today said yes, they do. 28% said no, they don't, and 37% didn't answer. And so we kind of have a mixed bag there. Are you working with sensitive data? 30% responded yes, 15% responded no. We had 19% respond, I don't know. And that's one of those questions that you'll need to really begin finding out. What level of CMMC do you believe your organization will need to be? We're seeing 16% of today's call is at level 1, 6% at level 2, and 19% at level 3. Level 4 and 5, we are seeing no one, and that's not a shock. And so it really kind of just gives us a good idea of where people are when it comes to that. So thank you guys for taking part in that. It really helps us understand a little bit more as well as far as how our organizations are doing. And so I am actually going to start a slide presentation here. Sharon, can you see my entire deck?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I am Brian Dennis, and I am here today to talk to you guys about the CMMC Maturity Model Certification, or the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. As Sharon mentioned, we are the Cybersecurity Center for Business, located here in beautiful Whitewater, Wisconsin. We are a comprehensive center for training, and so we look at ourselves as an opportunity to help the business side of the world and the government side and education. Currently, we're working on projects in workforce development. We realize that there's a lot of need in workforce development, and specifically cybersecurity workforce. So we're creating a program for apprentices to get out and get to work. Right now, and just in Wisconsin alone, we have 5,000 open jobs in cyber. We expect that to pretty much double within the next year and a half, and nationwide, those numbers are getting much bigger every day. Additionally, we're working on opportunities for training. In fact, we are now a licensed training provider from the CMMC accreditation body, and we will be training folks in CMMC practices in the very near future. Additionally, we have our opportunity with the Department of Defense and working with Fincantieri, Marinette Marine, and Oshkosh Corporation to make this happen for our folks and for our supply chain to keep them safe. And then finally, we're working on a cybersecurity range. So we have a cybersecurity defense range here on campus, and think of it like an infectious disease laboratory. Everyone hears about ransomware attacks, especially in the news lately. You hear about these phishing attacks, spear phishing, but you never actually see them in practice. And so we can actually begin showing people what they look like and what an attack how to detect an attack and how to respond and recover from an attack. And so those are some of the pieces that we're working on here. But today we're talking about CMMC. And a cybersecurity maturity model certification, when we talk about it, we really want folks to know that this is a unified standard for implementing cybersecurity across the entire defense industrial base. So when we've looked at it in the past, there's been a lot of kind of questions about when am I prepared enough to be a part of the base? When am I prepared enough to be a part of this defense supply chain? And that's what the CMMC is really trying to nail down. There's over 300,000 companies working in defense supply chain today, and we need to make sure that we can keep everyone safe. Just this morning, an executive order came out from the president's office on cybersecurity. And so we're likely to see a lot more happening in this realm in the very near future, most likely 60 to 90 days out. We'll probably start seeing more opportunities for this style of training within the system. The CMMC, it's kind of a paradigm shift. So, we're really looking for third-party auditors to come in and help our organizations find their way when it comes to cybersecurity. And so whether they end up in levels 1, 2, or 3, we're going to help them get to that point and ensure that the chain remains safe. And so when we start talking about what to do now, the CMMC was released last year in January of 2020. There's, as Sharon mentioned before, there's been starts and stops. The accreditation body is working hard to get things moving, but it takes time to get this type of certification up and running. But what I'm focused on helping the businesses that we're working with prepare for is start thinking about now, what can you do? And so use the time to this ramp up to certification to get a hold of all of the technical requirements that you're gonna need to be a part of. And then start thinking about what you can do to transition to a long-term cybersecurity agility plan. As Paul from Oshkosh mentioned, cybersecurity is not going away. This is going to be a problem moving forward. It's going to be just as much a part of your business units as your manufacturing wing, as your design wing, even as accounting and human resources. Cybersecurity is here to stay. These are problems that are going to happen, and we've got to begin dealing with them at every level of the supply chain. And so that's what we're really focused on with preparing folks now to get to that point. And so the framework of the CMMC is created in these 5 categories of level. And so level 1, it's basic cyber hygiene. There's 17 protocols that we're looking at within it. This is really just the simple stuff. How often are you changing your passwords? Do you have 2-factor authentication set up? What can you do to make sure that your antivirus is up to date and patched? We're really focused on just the simple information that potentially is being housed within your companies and that it can remain safe. Level 2, as Sharon mentioned, is a real kind of a pass-through into level 3. This is really focusing on that intermediate cyber hygiene area. Really beginning to think about controlled unclassified information with CUI, and beginning to make sure that we're ready to transition into level 3. And so we don't really see companies staying at level 2. We see level 2 as that transition into level 3. And level 3 is really, it's the place that we see a lot of companies ending up. That 800.171, all of the NIST 800.171 rules that we've seen are pretty much housed within level 3. And so there's a lot of opportunities for companies to really find their sweet spot right there in level 3, I believe. Level 4 and 5, we're not anticipating a lot of the companies that we're going to work with be at level 4 and 5. We're talking about much higher levels of security and threats that can exist. Level 4, we have, we're really starting to put procedures in place, to protect against advanced persistent threats. And in level 5, we're talking about 24-hour SOC centers and just all of these opportunities that really only great big giant organizations are going to have. When Sharon and I had the opportunity to spend some time in San Diego with Defense Acquisition University, I had some time to sit down with them and really talk to them about the 5 levels. And they don't expect level 4 and 5 to be that big of a deal for a lot of these companies. And so when we work with companies who are going to have to deal with CMMC, there's a lot of them who want to know, why is this happening to me? It's been interesting doing this over the last year and a half. You know, what we've heard several times is, well, can't I just work with companies and they not give me any information at all? Or can't I just limit the amount of information I have completely? And I wish we could say that that could be something we could put together, but we're really focused on the concept of zero trust. We want to make sure that we can build a system where everyone within the supply chain is up to snuff. And so, you know, all DoD contractors will eventually be required to obtain a CMMC certification. All. This includes all suppliers at all tiers along the supply chain, small businesses, commercial item contractors, and even foreign suppliers. And so, once again, the the Department of Defense has had some issues over the last few years with some attacks that hit the supply chain, and just honestly some information that was leaked to other countries that they want to make sure does not happen again. And they realize that the only way to truly do this is to create a platform where everyone is certified. And so when will some compliance happen? And so this is one of those things that we're, you know, it's in flux. When the accreditation body began, they said 2025, it's now 2026 by the time all DoD suppliers need to be certified. You know, what I want folks to start thinking about is that, you know, you need to start going into it now. Start thinking now about what you can do. It's going to improve your business model, and it's going to really help you get to the point where once you get your first RFP or contract with CMMC levels in it, you're ready to go. And so start thinking about what can you do today. You know, have you documented practices, procedures? Does your company, does your office have a cybersecurity policy and procedures in place? It's been interesting over the last year having conversations with companies that had a pretty good policy and procedure in place for disaster. And my background is disaster. And so that's one of those areas that I really focus keenly on. And so I talked to organizations that had, you know, a great plan put in place if the business suffered a fire, or if there was a tornado or a flood, what they might do. But they had no plans put in place, and very few folks did, about what to do should a pandemic happen. And then 2020 occurred. And so what we're focused on now is start thinking ahead. Let's start planning. And so when a cyber attack occurs within either your business or potentially a peripheral business, you're ready to take on the challenge. Additionally, start planning and implementing for further procedures and practices to obtain the highest level possible. Don't get level 1 and just be happy with it. That's kind of my thought process on it. You know, unless that's just your sweet spot and that's where you want to stay, start thinking about what will it take you to get to level 3 and to be prepared to engage with other organizations. Additionally, don't be afraid to engage. For our organization, the Cybersecurity Center for Business, we are hoping for businesses to engage with us. That's why we've partnered with the amazing Tetra Defense, who can really help companies figure out where they're sitting right now and what they need to do to get to level 1 or 2. And also, don't be afraid to engage with federal partners. The CMMC accreditation body, you know, they had a rocky start, and it's been a little bit of a bumpy road. But they've recently hired a new executive director. They're really shoring up their board with pretty impressive people. And so I think the accreditation body is going to be a good resource, and just don't be afraid to engage. Additionally, start looking at RFPs and RFIs that are coming out. You know, if you're seeing CMMC potential in there, you know, what's it going to take, and what would it take for your organization to get that? We want our organizations and our businesses to prepare for the challenges. As we've keep mentioning, it's been a rocky road, and it will be. Have patience. This is not happening overnight. You know, I don't think anyone foresaw 2020 happening, but we didn't see CMMC happening in the midst of all of that. And so we have definitely pushed pause a little bit on some of the CMMC opportunities, but we're going to see it begin moving more fluidly relatively soon. And also prepare for changes. You know, the thought that I'm going to get to level 1 and I can check that box and never have to worry about it again, it's unlikely. You know, we're going to see changes to the CMMC. It's just going to be a reality of the cybersecurity threat that we're facing. The threats that we had yesterday are not the threats of today, and the threats of today are not the threats of tomorrow. We have students here on this campus who are very aware of that. And when they've decided to come and get an education in cybersecurity, what they're realizing is that they're planning for a lifetime of learning. Cybersecurity is one of those areas that is going to constantly change. And to meet that change, we're going to have to make changes and upgrades to the CMMC. Something else that we really want our companies to think about is to be agile. I am a big evangelist for cybersecurity and improvements along all scale of business. And so when I talk to businesses, whether they are giant corporations that have global offices, or if it's a small mom and pop, I really focus on 5 key elements. That's the NIST identified elements of identify, detect, protect, respond, and recover. And so start thinking about what your organization can do to truly make yourselves as resilient as possible. Resiliency is the new buzzword. A lot of organizations, specifically at the federal level, are very interested in this. And so if you can come with a plan that shows a resilient concept built around these 5 key categories, there's going to be a lot of success your way. And so we're really seeing this as a tremendous opportunity moving forward. And so that's a little bit of my introduction into the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. I am going to turn it back over to Sharon so she can introduce Kevin Kaiser.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Brian. I really appreciate all of that input. Before I introduce Kevin, I wanted to just make sure people understand as well. Like I said, this site platform that Kevin is going to walk you through is free to you. The data that is put in there by you is yours and yours alone. We do not have access to it. We do have aggregate data that we will be collecting for Department of Defense, but it does not say anything more than who the companies are. If I log into site myself as an admin and try to click on any of the people who have already signed up into their area, it blocks me out. No one can do that. You do have the ability, however, which Kevin will tell you more about, to share the data with those within your workforce or others if you would want to. But I think that's important to remember, as well as remembering that since the Department of Defense asked us to write this grant, they are already anticipating that we will write another grant that would take us through at least CMMC level 3. And even if we were not to get that funding, it's important to know that this is a sustainable project. UW-Whitewater is committed to sustaining this and continuing the work with Tetra Defense and making sure that this is available to you. So once you start utilizing it, it's going to be there. So with that, I want to introduce you to Kevin, who has done just an amazing job for us. He has done all kinds of great videos to walk you through what he's going to show you today that will resources for you. I put the Cybersecurity Center for Business website up there where you can find these resources, as well as the CMMC AB link. So that's all in the Q&A area. And feel free to ask questions as we're going along, and I'll answer them as I can, or we'll get to them at the end. There you go, Kevin. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. You can hear me all right?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the introduction, and thanks everybody for joining us today. This is really exciting to see all the folks on the call today. And this is our 4th town hall for the suppliers of Marinette Marine and Osh Corporation. And over the past 2 weeks, we've done the town halls, and then folks have been signing up for site, going through the different practice areas. So it's very exciting to see all this come to fruition and be able to provide this type of value to the supply base. Thanks again, Sharon and Brian, for the kudos and the introduction. And also thank you to Marinette Marine and Oshkosh. From a security perspective, like Brian alluded to, there's such an interconnectedness in the supply chain. And when we look at the CMMC requirements straight away as a document, it can be pretty overwhelming particularly when you then pile on 300,000 companies that need to go and review all of that and become prepared. So without the dedicated guidance from the Marinette and Oshkosh, I'm thankful that they stepped up and partnered with Secure to put this program together. Again, my name is Kevin Kaiser from Tetra Defense. I'll provide a 1-minute background on Tetra and how we got involved in the program, and then we will jump into the site learning management platform. So Tetra is an incident response and cybersecurity company. So we are the first responders to cyber catastrophes like ransomware and business email compromise and others. And we also provide ongoing security services for small and mid-sized organizations, responding to active malicious activity on a regular basis. And all of those experiences have shown us that there is really a basic level of cyber hygiene that we would like organizations to adopt. And it overlapped really nicely with CMMC Level 1 in this program, which compelled us to really dive in, build out Site as a learning management tool, and provide it through the WIS Secured program. So this is, like Sharon said, being provided out for free to the supply base, really with our goal of raising that basic level of cyber hygiene for organizations. So that's my 1-minute background on Tetra. As we jump into the site platform here, I'll walk through 4 slides. So I have 1 slide for each of these bullets here, and then I'll jump over to a live demo. So we'll walk through the platform, all the different capabilities that will be at your fingertips. And following the town hall, Sharon will send out an email, and that email will be a link out to site along with a code that you can use to activate your account. And then you can launch your CMMC readiness journey using everything that we talk about today. So with that, I'll jump into a quick site overview, and then we'll move on to the different features and jump into the live demo. So tying on to what Brian had mentioned, there are 5 levels of CMMC. For getting started, we're very focused on level 1, which is made up of 17 different practice areas across 6 domains. And the focus is that basic level of cyber hygiene. Many of you might be able to move on and enable levels 2 and 3 as well. And some of that's dependent on the different types of contracts in your organization. So again, for getting started, we're very focused on the first 17 practice areas. And we've taken this ready, not ready self-assessment approach. So what site is not is a formal audit for your CMMC certification. It's rather a tool for you to use as a central repository and a checklist to work with your internal teams and your IT vendors to become ready for that formal audit with an auditor. Like I mentioned, just looking at the straightforward documentation and the list of things that you would need for that audit, it can be pretty overwhelming. So the site framework provides a structure and a simple path to that checklist and getting through those 17 practice areas and collecting all the right documents. And finally, we also want to provide educational materials. So as you're going through the different practice areas, we're very intentional around providing a written and video content from cybersecurity experts that describe each of the practice areas, but also provide real life examples through our incident response experience as well. And then to add on to that, like Sharon mentioned, the WIS Secured team will be providing various workshops ongoing to help support the education for you, the users, as you're going through your readiness journey as well. So the vision here is that we're able to provide this tool for free that you can use as a repository and a checklist system, along with content inside of site and then the workshops ongoing. All right. So with that overview, we can jump into the getting started process. And the first place that we'll start is the logging in or account activation. like I mentioned, after the town hall, you'll receive an email with a link from Sharon. That will take you out to the registration page for site. There will also be an invitation code, so you can enter that invitation code and then complete the registration form, very similar to creating an account on any other website. Once you complete the registration form, you'll receive a confirmation email to the email that you signed up with an activation link. You can click that activation link and that will take you to create your password and security questions. So you'll create your initial password and confirm that password and then select 2 security questions to log in the future. And then the final step will be multi-factor authentication. This is similar to what Sharon mentioned with a lot of the high-profile cyber attacks that are happening. From a cybersecurity perspective, a lot of these could be prevented through fairly simple basic cyber hygiene, like having multi-factor authentication. So we're trying to be good stewards of these types of initiatives, and through the system you can set up multi-factor authentication. And what that's doing is it's connecting a secondary device, it could be your mobile device or your computer, to the account that you're setting up. So we give several different options for multi-factor authentication. You only need to set up one of those options. A few of them, like Okta Verify and Google Authenticator, use mobile apps or an app on your computer to connect to your account. So if I were to choose the Okta Verify selection, I would go out to the App Store or Google Play, download the Okta application, and the prompts on the screen will walk me through connecting that app on my phone to my account. And then each time I go back to log into site, I can send a push notification to my phone, accept it, and it would let me activate or access my account. So once you set up your multi-factor authentication, that launches access into site. So those are the 4 main steps to logging in for the first time. A couple other hints or guidance. I would have one person at your organization go through and set up your account. And then once that person is inside of the account, they can invite other users who can log in to that same account as well. And I think that's the main component. Oh, and we also have some quick reference guides and videos. So I walk through what this looks like in real life in a video too. So we have a few different resources that you can use if you have questions as well. Awesome. So once you log into your site account, we like to set a foundation through an initial evaluation. So the first time that you log in, you'll see your organization name, and you'll be able to add your CMMC program. This initial evaluation goes through the 17 practice areas in level 1 and simply asks, are you ready or not ready to be assessed for certification for this particular practice area? So it's really just setting a basic level of where you're at in your readiness journey. We're very clear here on if you're not sure about this as you're going through, don't worry. There's no judgment here. Just move on. We're really just setting the foundation for the checklist portion of the system. So then you can go through and each of those 17 practice areas, you can review the information about that particular practice area. We provide video content and written content to give a little more detail about what that practice area entails. And then finally, is your organization ready or not ready to be assessed? You can hit that toggle, ready or not ready, and then move on to the next one. So that's a good description of the initial evaluation. Once you go through that initial evaluation, that launches the practice management portion. This is where you'll spend most of your time within site with your team members and possibly any IT vendors or other partners that you invite into your account. And what you'll notice is that we plot all of the practice areas up in a summary view here. So for level 1, there's 17 total practice areas. As I went through my initial evaluation, I marked 6 of those as being ready for a formal audit. And then below, we have each 6 of the 6 domains and the 17 practice areas listed out. So we get a really nice comprehensive view of all the different practice areas that fit within level 1 and the readiness status that I marked as I went through my initial evaluation. And then I can drill into each of these 17 practice areas, and we have a task management tool set. So I can view the specifics about that practice area. I can add comments here with my colleagues or partners. If during the audit I anticipate needing documentation, I could add specific files and use this as a repository and associate each document to the particular practice area. And if I need to do things, if I need to work with my colleagues to implement multi-factor authentication or something like that, we can even add estimated completion dates or costs to really manage the implementation of any necessities to become ready for assessment. And then finally, along the right-hand side, and I'll show this in the live demo more, there's a flyout, so a pop-out from the screen, and that's where some of that additional educational content lives. So for each of the 17 practice areas, we have written and video content to give a little bit more description as well. Circling back to one thing Sharon noted is that all the information that's going into site is your information. So treat this like your account. All the comments, files, everything that you're inputting in here is private to you and your organization. The WIS Secured team specific to the federal grant has aggregate view of how many companies have started the program, how many have marked certain practice areas ready, those types of things. But all of the specific content is yours and yours alone. So with that, that's a good walkthrough. We can now jump out into the live version and we'll walk through what this looks like. So like I mentioned, the first time you'll receive that email after the town hall, you'll go through the registration steps and log in, and you'll see that I'm here for my organization, Fuel and Sparks, and I will get started with my initial evaluation. Again, if I'm not sure about a particular item here, no judgment, just move on. So once I click into my initial evaluation, it's really a 17 question quiz that I can roll through pretty quickly. And the focus is my organization ready to be assessed? So I can look at the particular practice area and what's required. I can look at some of that video content and written information to get a little bit more information about what's needed. And if I'm ready, I can click ready and then move on. So I might go through and click a couple of these. Oh, I'm not ready for this one. I'll continue to move on and so on. So as I breeze through my initial evaluation, for brevity here, I'll jump out to another test organization here, so hubs and spokes. So once I complete my initial evaluation, it will show me you marked 6 of the 17 ready. And now I can look at that summary view of all the different practice areas. So I have my level 1 basic cyber hygiene, 6 of 17 are ready. Feeling pretty good about that. Now I can look at each of the 6 domains and the practice areas that roll up to those domains, along with how I mark them ready or not ready. As I continue in my practice management and I'm working with my colleagues, I can drill into these different practice areas. We can add comments, set completion dates or estimated costs, and then also start to look at some of that additional content that I mentioned, including some real-world examples from Tetra's incident response experience as well. As a team, once we work through each of the different 17 practice areas in level 1, then I can start to enable additional levels based on my organization's needs and the types of contracts that I have. So back to what Brian had mentioned, there are 5 different levels in CMMC. From the poll, many folks might fit somewhere between levels 1 and 3. So the site system is built to grow with you as your cybersecurity posture improves and the necessary requirements that you have as an organization. One other use case here is adding users. So like I mentioned, as you go through registration, you should have one person at your organization go and set up the account. Then that user can come in and come to this users section and add additional folks on your team or IT vendors into the account. You can click the user tab. This shows you the original person that set up the account, and you can add additional people to contribute as well. There are 3 different roles or permission levels that you can set. The super admin allows those users to invite other users along with create and contribute to content and read content. The read-write permission cannot invite users but can contribute and read content. And then the read-only cannot invite others or contribute to content. They can simply read what's inside of your account. So you can select the permission role, add their contact information, and then create that user. They would receive an email invite and be able to go through the login process and then have access to your account. So as a summary, the site platform is really built to be an assistant for you and your teams as you journey to CMMC readiness. It's a free system that's funded by the WIS Secure grant, and we will continue to work with Sharon and team to build out additional types of content. I'm really open to feedback on different features, additional components within either the content portion of this or the different practice areas, the feature sets, and being able to collaborate and work with team members. So we look forward to working with everyone, and again, really focused on raising the standard level of hygiene across industries and supporting everyone on this journey. So Sharon, I'll kick it back to you.
Thanks so much, Kevin. One quick question that came up for you specifically is, are there other MFA apps acceptable? And this individual said they already use Authy.
There are 3, actually I think there are 4 that are available when you log in. So Okta Verify will be one, Google Authenticator will be another, the SMS text version is a third, and then a biometric, but based on your computer. Like my Mac here has a fingerprint scanner that I have connected. Others might have a facial recognition with your camera. So that would be the 4th. Authy right now is not one that we have built into the system.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A couple other questions that came up were people are wondering how long site will be available to them. At this point in time, we are looking to sustain this indefinitely. The Cybersecurity Center for Business at UW-Whitewater intends to take it on should we not receive another Department of Defense grant. DoD did in fact pay for any fees that associated with helping to build this out. You know, it's important for you to know that anything you put in there that you know, it is yours. Should you decide you wanted to go with some other kind of platform, your information would be available to you. We would work with Tetra to get your information back out for you so that you could upload it to another platform should you so choose. So there is a lot of flexibility, and we do intend for the very long future to keep it free for you for as long as we can, and I don't see that changing. We are building out different programs at the Cybersecurity Center for Business so that we are able to sustain this out of our pockets so that we can get you guys up and going and ready to at least level 3 of the CMMC. So I hope that answers those questions. I'm just kind of going back through looking. I know a question here from a supplier who said they just provide forms and paper goods, provide forms and printed items. Is CMMC relevant to us? We're being told right now is that anyone who is a defense industry-based supplier is going to be required to be at some kind of CMMC level. That again will depend on what is an RFI, request for information, or the request for proposal RFP that comes out. It will be clearly stated in there what levels of CMMC they expect the prime contractor and subcontractors to be at. That will be reflected in any subcontracts that go out from your prime contractor. So all of those things are being considered and talked about. I think it's really critical to remind people too that there are a number of open forums and town halls put on by the CMMC Advisory Board, the AB, and if people can take part in those, it's really good. They also do lots of different surveys and asking questions and comments from the suppliers that this is affecting. So if there are things that you're concerned about, it's important to either let us know, because we do in fact get back to them and let them know the concerns that we're hearing, but you guys can do that as well. So if you feel like this is negatively or positively affecting you in some way, there are ways to reach out and make sure that that is known, so that you're being heard. This does affect all of us. DoD is appreciating that. But from what we're hearing, other federal agencies are looking at going with the CMMC as well. Department of Homeland Security and General Services Administration are both talking that they are going to implement CMMC for their suppliers. So, it's only going to grow. So we're really hopeful that we can help you guys get as far as possible without it being any cost to you. So with that, I don't see any other questions. Does anyone else have anything for the good of the whole?
Yeah, I have a quick question. With the pipeline compromise, has there been any discussion about bumping up the timeline on this?
There has not. My understanding with the pipeline is that it doesn't fall under energy. I believe it falls under, is it Department of Transportation? And they don't have right now the same requirements that certain entities are expected to have. And so, government as a whole in our country as a whole is seeing how easy it is to get hacked, and how important it is to have our infrastructure covered and following the same requirements and guidelines. And I see Brian popped on, so he may want to discuss a little bit more.
A quick follow-up on that. There's been some movement today, specifically the Biden administration released an executive order, and it's worth taking a look at. We're probably going to start seeing within the 60 to 90 days, probably more information coming out about it. But it wouldn't surprise me if we start seeing CMMC adopted within other areas as well.
So we have not heard anything.
I don't see it fast tracking the movement on CMMC, because the accreditation body really wants to get it under their control before they really start fast tracking it through. So I think the 2026 date is probably pretty set at this point.
Yeah, we may see more contracts with it next year than they had anticipated, based on all of these things that are happening, but we've not heard anything to that effect at this point. Does anybody else have any? Thanks. Great question though, Amanda. Anybody else? If not, like I said, we will collect the questions that we do have and the questions from our other town halls that we've already had. We will post those on our Cybersecurity Center for Business website. You will be getting an email from me this afternoon inviting you to log into the site platform and begin utilizing it. Again, please reach out for any questions, concerns, or anything else. And if you don't see the email from me, look in your junk or trash mail. So I'd greatly appreciate it. With that, I'm going to give you some time back in your day, and hope it's a good one. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As always, thanks, Sharon.
Thank you.